A reading from the letter of Paul to the Romans. Brothers and sisters, I am speaking to you Gentiles. Inasmuch as I am the apostle to the Gentiles, I glory in my ministry in order to make my race jealous and thus save some of them. For if their rejection is the reconciliation of the world, what will their acceptance be but life from the dead? For the gifts and the call of God are irrevocable. Just as you once disobeyed God, but have now received mercy because of their disobedience, so they have now disobeyed in order that, by virtue of the mercy shown to you, they too may now receive mercy. For God delivered all to disobedience, that he might have mercy upon all. The word of the Lord.
Our second reading for this Sunday is taken from the letter of Paul to the Romans. We have been reflecting on this precious, this valuable, but mysterious gift of grace, of faith, Faith, it is a gift, and God is free to give it to people that we might not expect to be filled with faith. This is the vision of the first reading from Isaiah, where we have even the foreigners, the Gentiles, or those who are considered pagans. Now, in God's will, in God's plan, they could fill the temple of the Lord with prayer. They would be faithful to God's covenant. They would offer God's service. But how is this possible when they do not belong to God's chosen people? Where will they get the faith to pray, to serve, and to be faithful? It is from God. God who wills that everyone should come to Him. So it is not so much human effort, but God's precious gift. But we who belong to God's faithful people, we should be humble, not thinking of our faith as our achievement, and not also thinking that faith would be given only to those who belong to our group. God will surprise us. It is the same surprise that St. Paul is talking about in the second reading. St. Paul laments the fact that the chosen people of God, Israel, did not accept Jesus. Yeah, it is this people called by God in order to be a beacon of faith to the whole world. Yet, when the fulfillment of God's plan came in the person of Jesus, Israel did not accept Him. The non-acceptance, or what St. Paul considers the disobedience of Israel, really pains him. For he came from the people Israel. He was a staunch believer and follower of the faith. He was a Pharisee. We know his background. He defended the true faith against this so-called new movement associated with Jesus. But when he had received this revelation, he accepted Jesus as the one sent by God to be our Savior. But look at how St. Paul makes sense of the rejection of Jesus by Israel. He looked at it as somehow the fulfillment of the first reading. By Israel's non-acceptance of Jesus, the faith became open more clearly to the Gentiles, to the foreigners, those who do not belong to Israel. And now, the Gentiles are asked to be humble. It is by the disobedience of Israel that they experience God's mercy. And they are reminded that their faith hopefully will become an incentive for Israel to return to the true faith, to find in Jesus the fulfillment of all their hopes and the promises of God. Israel cannot be proud, saying we are the only ones gifted with faith. Nor should the Gentiles who have now accepted Jesus become proud and say, we are the only ones gifted with faith. In each one, there is faith. In each one, there is also disobedience. And this disobedience to God, this sinfulness in us, that in spite of faith, we also reject God. We also fall into sin. This is important as an element of faith, so that we will recognize that our faith is really an act of God's mercy to us. So, brothers and sisters, let faith be humble. Let us not make use of faith in order to separate ourselves from other people, knowing that if we come to faith, it is by God's grace. And even if we are already believers, the sinful part of us remains. We can be as disobedient as others. And so, with believers and unbelievers, we all need God's mercy. And we would be surprised. God continues to sow the seeds of faith in people whom we do not suspect.